to begin there, guys? Brian here, day 3, Topics Gamer, and I literally just got back from my trip to Universal Studios Hollywood, and I thought it would be nice if I did 2 different separate type of videos. Now, this first video that you're watching, as you saw from the title, is basically just me going over everything I did during my trip, as well as things that I picked up, which I will be sharing throughout the course of the video. And the second video that I hope to get uploaded the same day is just doing a tier list ranking of how I would rank all of the rides that I actually went on, because as far as I know, me and my friend John actually went on all but I believe one of the rides over the course of 2 days. So I think that doing a ranking video tier list style, as if you guys had voted on, would be pretty fun and awesome to do. So before I go into my list of things and running down everything that I did this video or during my trip, if you happen to enjoy this video by the end, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keep track of me on all my future videos, as well as be sure to check out my friend John's channel. He goes by the name of Spiteful Spartan. I believe he will also upload a video going over like what we did from his perspective. And by the time he sends me the link to that video, I'll be sure to place that also in the description down below. So, first off, the drive over there was actually pretty good. It took us about 4 hours. We only made 1 stop on the way there. And parking was actually pretty good too. So we were in the park relatively quickly. Now, the first place that we actually visited was actually Springfield. So this is the Simpsons theme area. And as you can see from this footage here, they did an incredible job of actually recreating some iconic locations that you would recognize from the Simpsons show. So like Moe's Tavern and the Cookie Mark and Krusty Land. It was actually pretty good. There were some rides, there were some food places, there were some games that you could play. So it was a lot of fun. And the first ride that we went on was actually the Simpsons Ride. Now, I actually didn't realize it at the time, but this Simpsons Ride is what replaced the Back to the Future ride. And they pretty much just took the Back to the Future ride and just recolored it and made it focus on the Simpsons. Because even though I never got a chance to actually ride on the Back to the Future ride, just from what I'd heard about it, that's really all they did. So what this ride has you do is it separates you into groups of, I believe, 4 or 8, and it'll put you in these individual rooms. And when the ride is about to start, it actually raises the cart that you're in to a higher level, into this big wide circular theater. Now the cool thing about this one is that regardless of your position, somehow this circular theater actually makes it appear as though you're focused dead center, even if you're like on the side of the room. Now, if you happen to sit in the middle, you actually don't see the other riders and the other carts. But if you peek over a little bit, you can kind of see where they are. So I liked how they elevated it. And as far as the ride goes, it was just the Simpsons being chased by Psycho Bob as he was trying to kill them. There were all kinds of effects. The cart was riding. It gave you the feeling of falling, spinning around, getting hit. I believe at one time we got hit with water, and so it sprinkled a little bit. So this was really the first simulator that we experienced. And to be fair, most of the rides at Universal Studios Hollywood are simulators, but this was definitely one of the better ones that we experienced during the first day. There were definitely some ones that were on par, and there were definitely some simulators that we experienced that weren't as good, but this was definitely a first good ride to experience going to. After that, we then went to the lower lot, and it was there that we actually saw where they would be building the Super Mario World Land area. Now, me and John had actually planned to we actually planned this trip because we wanted to go to Super Mario Land World when it opens early next year. So we kind of want to know where it was going to be located, as well as, if when we do decide to come back and we want to bring more people, we kind of know what rides to go on and avoid and which ones to go on first, and just kind of handle it during certain times of the day. That way we weren't getting lost. I mean, you can get a map, but trust me, it's much better to experience going there. So after that, we did go on the Mummy ride, which was by far my favorite ride to go on to the last 2 times I was here. I haven't been to Universal Studios Hollywood in like over almost 10-15 years, and he actually hadn't been here even longer, so this was kind of a new experience for both of us in a sense. And the waiting for the Mummy ride was definitely the hardest part, and I think that's probably the worst experience that we had for a lot of these rides, is that a lot of them were out in the open and we had to deal with the heat, and so a lot of people were burning. We were drinking a lot of water. In one of the rides, during one of the lines, I'll tell you, when we get there, a lady actually passed out. So I think the one thing that I think Universal's could have done to make those kind of waiting experiences a little bit better is if they had more shading. There were like little water fountains spread throughout the lines as you snaked through, but just some covers would have been helpful. Now the Rummy ride was awesome. It's a dark ride. It's focused off the 1999 Mummy movie, so it wasn't focused on the newer Tom Cruise movie. So I was happy that that's like, in terms of like how the oldest movie to have its own ride, I think that one was definitely the oldest one in the park. I think everything else had been either built or been upgraded to something else, but by far it was still one of the best rides there. I would even say without question it's probably the fastest ride you will go on to, and if you have a chance to go on it multiple times, please do so, because me and John certainly did ride it multiple times. After that, we then moved around the corner and head to the Transformers 3D ride, which was new. Something they had just built. And this too was kind of, it was another simulator, but instead of being in a kind of like a stationary position, like say something like The Simpsons, what it had you do was you were put in this car that was in the form of this Autobot called Evac. And basically you were to transport a piece of the Allspark and get it out of town before the Decepticons could get a hold of it. And so what it would have you do is you're in this simulator cart and it is moving around, but you're kind of on a rail. So I thought it had a much more immersive experience. It was a good length. I don't think any of these were ever too long, but the effects and just the overall feeling of Transformers 3D was actually pretty good also. After that, we went, I believe, back upstairs to the upper lot, and we went to the Kung Fu Panda movie theater experience. I didn't really care much for this one. I have not seen Kung Fu Panda, so I wasn't a fan, but this was probably one of my least favorite kind of simulator or experiences to go to, because pretty much all this was imagine watching a movie with D-Box, except far less impressive. If you've seen any movie in D-Box, you've gone through something that is far more impressive than this. In fact, I'll even go so far as to say, if you've seen any of those Typhoon arcade games that you would see in arcades that have like, you kind of sit down and like puts you in like some sort of roller coaster or a pinball machine or a racing car, if you've actually experienced one of those, you've experienced something that is far better than the Kung Fu Panda Disney work like theater experience. This was like, I really didn't care much for this, and I just wanted it to be over. And then the last thing that we did was we went to the Despicable Me, and this too was also a simulator. It's as someone who has never seen Despicables, I don't understand the Minions crave, so it's something that I really wasn't too into it. But this simulator worked a little bit like the Simpsons ride, however, it was far less impressive. I mean, it only raised you like, I mean, you're sitting with the other passengers on their separate cars, and it only raised you up about like maybe a foot, and it tried doing the circular theater motion, but it wasn't nearly as effective, and it just, you know, banked you forward and backward. But it was very low quality. It was something I didn't really care much for. So this was definitely one of the least favorite simulator rides that me and John actually went on. And then we checked out, and then we went back to we checked in our hotel, and our hotel that we stayed at was actually a beautiful view of the valley. So it was, John really picked a great hotel to stay at. Now, one thing we definitely did make sure to avoid, at least the first day, was we avoided as best we could throughout going through the Wizarding World of Harry Potter area. We tried to avoid it. We had to go through it to leave, but we did our best not to look at too many things or not get too focused on anything. We just want to get through it and out of it as best we can, because we were saving it for the beginning of the second day. Because the second day that we got there, the first thing we got was we went to Ollivanders and we got our wands. Now, we actually did experience the choosing of the wand ceremony, and we were kind of hoping maybe we'd get picks, but we found out that they actually kind of focus on kids that look about 12, because they want to kind of recreate the experience, because you'd be about 12 years old when you'd get your first wand. And a kid did get picked, and it was actually pretty cool. One thing me and John both learned, though, is that our phone, like my phone and his camera, do not do well in low light to pitch black areas. I mean, just from this footage here, like it does not look good at all. So we know that if you try to film or capture anything, just try to get as much light as possible, because it is not very good in the dark. I mean, we have photo modes that have a good night mode, but when it comes to video recording, it does not work well at all. So after the ceremony was done, we then moved into the next room and we did pick our wands. John picked up his wands, I picked up my wand, and the wand that I actually went up and picked was a personal wand, because they actually have this map of wands that would be for you depending on your birthday. And since my birthday is September 2nd, the wand that I got was this one. And this one is actually called the, if I remember correctly, the Vine wand. See, I'm not sure how well I can get this, but I like, it's a good length. It's actually one of the longer wands. It's got like a 3-stage set of color. You have like a good brown, and then the middle part is black, and then the tip is white. This feels really good with my hand. There's actually a little kind of device, look, kind of like a sync, like a sensor here. And this is what you would actually use. There's several spots throughout the wizarding area that if you actually do the proper wind movement, it'll actually cause an effect to happen. And me and John were just playing around with that. We went to several different locations. We activated all kinds of different spells. It was a great immersion experience. And just looking at the wizarding world of Harry Potter, that entire area, it is an absolute must visit to anyone who's a Harry Potter fan. This is just absolutely, you have to at least visit this place at least once. I mean, just the feel of it, the smell of it, the look of it. I mean, they put so much money and so much attention to detail. It's just, and just getting to meet the cast members that are very much in character, and it just an amazing experience of I think any fan of any age is going to have an amazing time just wandering around. You could easily get lost there for, I'd say, like an hour or two and buy all kinds of stuff. John bought a whole bunch of different things. While I was there, I ended up buying like a Ravenclaw cup. I actually bought, from the pictures you see, I actually bought that specific Ravenclaw shirt as well as this Ravenclaw hat. I actually bought them specifically for this trip. So me and him are both sporting Ravenclaw gear because we're both Ravenclaws. And we both got Ravenclaw, like a bunch of Ravenclaw stuff. I got like, this mug here. And while we were also there, I happened to pick up some candy. So I thought it would be cool to try some ever-flavored beans and also a chocolate frog. I think I'm gonna do a separate video of me testing out the chocolate frog and the ever-flavored beans. I don't know what the flavors are, but let's just say it doesn't get too crazy. So after we got our wands and our candy and our mug, we then decided to actually go on the Harry Potter ride, which, if I remember correctly, it is called the Harry Potter Journey. It's some sort of journey ride. And the line for this one was extremely long. We were in line for at least like an hour and a half. And when we got there, I have to say, this ride has got to be one of the single most impressive rides we and John had ever been on, because it's somewhat like a simulator. It's not quite like a roller coaster, but it's just how it worked that I thought was amazing, because it had you in these seats, and the seats will actually operate on like a conveyor belt, and it would constantly move you up and down, and it would rotate you, and the transition between the screen you were looking at and practical animatronics was absolutely seamless. It was absolutely incredible. Like at one point you'd be flying with Harry and Ron, and then the next thing you know, you'd run into some spiders, and then the next thing you know, you'd be flying some more to this new location. Then you'd run right into the Whomping Willow, and then the animatronics, the Whomping Willow got really close to you. I'd say it was no farther than maybe 3 or 4 feet. It got pretty close to you, and then you'd fly to this new area, and then you'd go into these dimensions, and you go in this cave, and the transition between screen and animatronics was absolutely incredible. We would have gone a second time, but then something happened near the end of the day, which I'll explain later. But this was absolutely the best ride, without question, at Universal Studios. If you have a chance to ride it multiple times, please do so. And if I remember correctly, the one in Orlando is different. So I like how the one in Hollywood and the one in Orlando actually have they tell different stories, and I really hope I get a chance to try out the one in Orlando. But this ride was incredible. I don't know how many years it's been there, but it is without question the best ride there. Without, it's not even up for debate. After that, we went to the other Harry Potter ride, and I believe this one was called the Ride of the Hippogriff. And this was the only roller coaster ride in Universal Studios. It's small. It's over. It's not. It's like the second fastest ride. It's over in like 45 to 50 seconds. It was small, but we thought it was okay. We weren't in line too long for it. But it's definitely something for like smaller kids and something just to kind of just waste a little bit of time. The next thing we did was we hit to another lower lot and we went on the Studio Tours ride or experience. And I actually looked at a lot of ratings online, and a lot of them said that for the Studios Tours was like the best thing there. And I didn't really think that, because what it did was it took us on a tour throughout the Universal Studios lots, and we got to see some of the sound stages, and we got to pass by certain locations that the instructor was saying like certain scenes in certain movies were actually filmed on this lot. I questioned that a little bit, and it also took us through like these 3 staging areas, and the first one was like a 3D experience of King Kong, where the little cart vehicle that we were in, it was put on this rail and it was vibrating a little bit while we were in the middle of a 3-dimensional 3D screen while we were wearing 3D goggles. So we got to see King Kong like fight over our cart and then fight some Tyrannosaurus Rexes, and then we went forward even more and we saw some more props. I saw this prop of like the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3. We saw some cars, some iconic cars from some movies that you know, and then we drove into this other staging area, and this was for the Fast and the Furious 3D ride, and this one wasn't very good. I didn't like this one at all. I heard some negative things about it. They're just as bad as you would expect. I didn't like it at all. It was weird. The King Kong ride was a lot better and the fast one. So the fact that they kind of crammed this tour over the course of an hour into like one experience, I could see like in total, I guess it was okay, but overall, me and John really didn't find it all that impressive. And even there were even some other locations that they claim were like the filming spots for like other movies and TV shows, but it really wasn't something that I really cared all that much for. After that, we went to the Jurassic Park ride, and we got through this line incredibly quick. I'm gonna give you some advice. If you get a chance, please pick the single riders line. Like at this point, me and John just wanted to get through this ride as quickly as possible. The line was incredibly long, but if you're a single rider, you can get through relatively quickly. Like the waiting list line for Jurassic Park was always between like an hour to 2 hours. In fact, it was 2 hours on day one. That's why we didn't even attempt to go. But me and John were in and out in less than 20 minutes. Like we were in line for like, we didn't care if we were riding in the same boat. We ended up not be. I ended up getting in the first boat, and John was in the boat behind me. And we got through this ride in like 20 minutes from lineup to getting off. And as far as the Jurassic World ride, it really is the same thing. If you had a chance to ride the Jurassic Park, the original Jurassic Park ride, which I did, it very much is the same. They just remodeled it a little bit, but you kind of knew where certain turns were going to happen. You knew what was going to happen at the end where the T-Rex was going to pop out. They added the Indominus Rex, but it really wasn't all that effective. I will say that the T-Rex effect in the original I thought was way better, because the T-Rex here, they actually tried, instead of it just being the head as it was in the original, they actually just had like a much smaller scale T-Rex just kind of pop up right as you're dropping down the chute, and I thought that was far less effective. So overall, I personally prefer how it was in the original style than this updated Jurassic World version, but that's just me. And then, but I think the last thing we did was we then went to go see the Harry Potter, it was like this night show that they did on the Hogwarts Castle. And we were there for like an hour. We actually would have wanted to go on the Harry Potter journey ride again, but we didn't know when it started. So if we had known the right time that it was going to start, we actually would have gone on that ride a second time, because the waiting line was like only 20 minutes. So we were waiting there, and a lot of people were building up, and we actually got some pretty great footage of the castle itself. And I have to say, the music and the effects on the castle and the lights and just everybody there, it was a really great experience. And over the course of the, and we even over the time, I almost forgot, we actually even got a chance to visit some food spots. There were some like unique themed foods there that we tried that were actually pretty good. We spent a good amount of money. But yeah, I think after we saw the Hogwarts show, I think it lasted like 4 or 5 minutes. That's when we headed out. And that was pretty much the end of our trip. So overall, I think I'd say overall, me and John had a great time at Universal Studios. We are now we definitely are going to be coming back to go to the Super Mario World area when it opens up early next year. Hopefully we'll bring some more people with us so we can have even more fun and make some more memories and get some more footage and talk a little bit more about it. But I'm not sure what John's going to say in his video, but yeah, overall I really had a great time. So that about does it for my rundown of pretty much. Oh, and there's one more thing I ended up picking up after I got off the Transformers ride, and I got this Bumblebee cup, container, whatever, bottle. That was actually pretty cool. I wish they had an Optimus instead of just Bumblebee. Like there's certain rides that actually had like just one of these, and you could actually fill them up wherever you went. So I thought that was pretty cool. Oh, also, I also actually took time. Almost forgot. If you're ever in the Harry Potter area, make sure you try some butterbeer. What are you doing?
Go for it.
Okay, I'm gonna try some butterbeer. I don't know how it tastes, but let's see if I can show the whole thing. So, hey, give me a countdown from 3.
3, 2, 1.
I'd say out of 10, I give this like an 8. Try some butterbeer, and there's 2 variations of it. There's like it in like a standard beer form, and the other is in like a frozen. And depending on the temperature, if it's hot, get the frozen, but if it gets cooler, get the liquid. I did it in reverse, and I had like a mixed experience, but overall I thought the butterbeer was actually pretty tasty. I just wish I'd switched the time of day, because I actually got the liquid version when it was really, really hot, and I got the frozen version when it was really, really cool. So don't make my mistake. Switch it around depending on the temperature. So that's pretty much everything I did for Universal Studios. I hope you guys enjoyed this little breakdown of everything I did, including seeing some of the pictures and footage that I got while I was there. Make sure you stay tuned, because I am going to be doing, again, a rating tier list style of how I would rank all of the rides that me and John went on. We went on everything except just one ride, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. Oh, there's one more thing. I almost forgot. We totally did go to the Waterworld ride. I had never been on this before, and I think that the Waterworld show experience was cool. However, you really have to try to get a seat in the center section. Me and John were actually placed in the seating on the right section, and though I thought it was okay, it just made you want to sit in the center section, because if you can get a center section seat, I think you'll have the best view of the entire show. If you're sitting on one of the edges, you won't be able to see everything quite so well. But I think that the Waterworld show was definitely fantastic. So I just want to get that out there before I close this video. So again, if you do happen to enjoy this little video of mine, please, hope you guys don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keep track of me on all my future videos, and make sure you press the subscribe button so you can help grow the channel and hopefully help me reach my end of the year goal. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will catch you all next time.